The sky turned dark in the middle of the day. It was not clouds, it was not a storm, it was something far worse. Commander stood at the window of Outpost Gamma and watched the massive shapes descend through the atmosphere. The ships were huge, bigger than anything humans had ever built. They blocked out the sun and cast long shadows across the colony below. "How many?" asked the squad medic as she walked up beside him. Counted silently. His face remained calm, but his heart was beating fast. At least 30 ships, maybe more behind them. The alarm started screaming throughout the outpost. Red lights flashed in every hallway. Soldiers ran to their positions, grabbing weapons and equipment. This was the moment they had trained for, but nobody truly believed it would come. Humans had been living on colonies across the galaxy for almost 50 years. They had met other alien species before. Some were friendly, some were not, but they had never met anything like this. Every species in the galaxy knew about them. They were conquerors. They moved from world to world, taking everything they wanted. They had destroyed entire civilizations. The stories about them were terrible. They said they never lost a war. They said they had a weapon that no species could survive. Turned away from the window, he looked at his squad gathered in the command room. There was the sergeant, a big man with a loud laugh and no fear. There was the sharpshooter, quiet and deadly with her rifle. There was the youngest soldier, only 22 years old but brave. And there was Bora, the corporal, smart and quick in battle. They all looked at, waiting for his orders. "They are here," he said simply. "You all know what that means." Nobody spoke. They all knew the stories. "We have about 1 hour before they reach the surface," continued. "We cannot evacuate. The civilian ships are too slow. They would be shot down before they reached orbit." Stepped forward. "What about calling for help, the Earth fleet?" "Too far away," said. "The nearest ships are 3 days out. We are alone." His hands were shaking slightly. Bora noticed and put a hand on his shoulder. She did not say anything, but the message was clear. They were a team. They would face this together. Cracked his knuckles and grinned. "So we fight. I always wanted to see what these look like up close." "You might get your wish," said quietly, checking her rifle for the 10th time. Pulled up a map on the main screen. It showed the outpost and the surrounding area. There were about 5,000 civilians in the colony, mostly scientists and workers. The military presence was small, just 200 soldiers spread across different positions. "Our job is simple," said. "We hold this outpost. We protect as many civilians as we can. We make the pay for every step they take." He looked at each of them. These were good soldiers. They had fought together many times before, but this was different. This was not a small battle or a rescue mission. This was survival. "I will not lie to you," said. "Our chances are not good. They have conquered species far more powerful than us, but we are human. We do not give up. We do not run. We fight until the end." Nodded firmly, "Until the end." The others repeated the words, "Until the end." Outside, the first ships were landing. Could see them through the window, huge metal creatures settling onto the ground like birds of prey. Doors opened, and figures began to emerge. They were tall, almost 7 feet. Their skin was gray and rough like stone. They had 4 arms and 2 legs. Their faces were flat with small eyes and no visible nose. They moved with terrible purpose, forming lines and marching toward the colony. "They are not even trying to hide," Bora observed. "They just walk right at us." "They do not need to hide," said quietly. "They have never needed to." Understood what she meant. They were confident. They had won every battle, every war. Why would they hide from humans? Humans were just another species to conquer, another world to take. But had a different thought. Maybe that confidence was a weakness. Maybe they had forgotten what it felt like to face an enemy that would not surrender. He picked up his weapon and checked the ammunition. "Everyone to positions. You are on communications. Keep trying to reach the fleet. Find a high spot with a good view. Bora, you are with me at the main entrance." "What about me?" asked. "Set up the medical station. We will need it." Paused. "And if they break through, take the civilians to the underground shelter. Do not wait for us." Wanted to argue, but she saw the look in his eyes. She nodded and left to prepare. The soldiers moved quickly through the outpost. The hallways were filled with activity. Other squads were taking their positions. Engineers were setting up barricades. Everyone was preparing for the fight of their lives. Reached the main entrance and looked out at the approaching army. There were thousands of them now, spreading across the land like a gray wave. They carried strange weapons that glowed with purple light. Behind them came massive tanks and machines of war. "Commander," said, standing beside him, "I heard something about a gas, a weapon the use." Nodded. "The nerve toxin. They release it before every battle. It kills every living thing it touches. No species has ever survived it." Was quiet for a moment, then he smiled. "Well, I guess we will be the first." Almost laughed. That was, always joking even in the darkest moments. But his words gave a small feeling of hope. Maybe the big sergeant was right. Maybe humans would surprise the galaxy. They stopped about 100 meters from the outpost. A single figure walked forward, larger than the others and wearing golden armor. This was clearly a leader. A voice boomed across the field, translated by some alien technology. "Humans of this colony, I am General of the Empire. You have one chance to surrender. Put down your weapons and come out. You will be taken as workers. Resist and you will die. All of you." Looked back. Neither of them moved toward the door to surrender. "I guess that is our answer," Bora said with a small smile. General waited for a long moment. When no humans emerged, he made a gesture to his troops. Soldiers began moving forward again. Large canisters were brought to the front of the army. "The gas," his voice came over the radio. "They are preparing the gas." Watched as they loaded the canisters into launchers. This was it. The legendary weapon that had killed millions across the galaxy. The poison that no creature could survive. "Everyone seal your helmets," ordered. "Gas attack incoming." The soldiers obeyed quickly. Helmets clicked into place. Air filters activated. They did not know if their equipment would work against alien poison, but it was all they had. General raised his arm, then he brought it down. The canisters flew through the air and crashed against the outpost walls. Green smoke began to pour out, thick and heavy. It crept through every crack, every opening, filling the hallways with strange mist. They watched their screens, waiting to see bodies fall. They had done this 1,000 times before. The gas always worked. The enemy always died. But inside the outpost, something unexpected was happening. Sergeant, standing in the middle of the green cloud, suddenly removed his helmet. Shouted at him to stop, but just stood there, breathing deeply. Then he turned to, with a confused look on his face. "Hey," he said, "is that mint?" The green gas filled every corner of the outpost. It poured through the vents, under the doors, and through the smallest cracks in the walls. Within minutes, the entire building was covered in thick green mist. Outside, General stood with his arms crossed, watching the screens that showed the inside of the human base. He had seen this many times before. First, the enemy would panic. Then they would start to choke. Then they would fall to the ground, their bodies shaking. And finally, they would stop moving forever. The nerve toxin was perfect. It attacked the brain and the lungs at the same time. No species had ever survived it, not the with their 4 hearts, not the with their armored skin, not even the who could survive in the vacuum of space. All of them died when they breathed the green gas. So General waited. His officers stood beside him, also watching. They expected to see the same thing they always saw, dead bodies, easy victory. But what they saw made no sense. The human called had removed his helmet. He was standing in the middle of the gas cloud, breathing it in. And he was not dying. He was not even coughing. Instead, he had turned to another human and was speaking. "Is that Mint?" asked again, louder this time. Stared at him with wide eyes. She was still wearing her helmet, afraid to breathe. "Put your helmet back on. Are you crazy?" But just laughed. "I am serious. It smells like mint, like the candy." He took another deep breath. "Actually, it is quite nice, very fresh." Commander grabbed by the shoulder. "Sergeant, what are you doing?" "Commander, the gas is not working," said. He was smiling now, a big stupid grin on his face. "I have been breathing it for 30 seconds. I feel fine. Better than fine, actually. My nose is very clear." Could not believe what he was hearing. He looked at the green mist swirling around them. Was right. Was the legendary weapon actually harmless to humans? There was only one way to find out. Slowly reached up and unsealed his helmet. He heard Bora and the others shouting at him to stop. But he had to know. If was wrong, would die. But if was right, everything would change. He lifted the helmet off his head and took a small breath. The gas entered his lungs. It was cool and fresh, like breathing mountain air with a hint of mint. Waited for the pain, for the choking, for death. But nothing happened. He felt perfectly fine. "By all the stars," whispered, "he is right." One by one, the other soldiers removed their helmets. Then Bora, they all breathed the green gas. They all survived. The medic was the last to try. She took a careful breath and then immediately began to analyze her body's reaction. Her eyes went wide with wonder. "This is amazing," she said. "The gas is menthol-based. It is essentially the same chemical structure as common earth plants. Mint, eucalyptus, things like that. Our bodies process it easily. It is literally like breathing air freshener." Burst out laughing. "The deadliest weapon in the galaxy is air freshener. I cannot believe this." Outside, General was not laughing. He was staring at his screens with growing horror. The humans were not dying. They were standing, talking, and even laughing. Some of them were taking off their helmets on purpose and breathing deeply. "Increase the concentration," ordered. "More gas, double it." His officers obeyed immediately. More canisters were launched at the outpost. The green cloud grew thicker and thicker. The mist was so dense that the humans could barely see each other. But still, nobody died. Inside the outpost was practically doing exercises in the gas cloud. He stretched his arms and took big breaths like he was at a spa. "This is actually very refreshing," he said. "My sinuses feel great." "Focus," Sergeant said, but he was also smiling. "We need to figure out what to do next." Who had been quiet this whole time, suddenly spoke up. "Commander, I am getting something on the alien radio frequencies. I think I can translate it." "Do it," ordered. Worked at his station for a moment, then played the intercepted message. The voice of General filled the room, translated into human language. "This is impossible. The gas is at maximum concentration. Why are they not dead? What is wrong with these creatures?" Another voice replied, one of his officers. "General, our sensors show the humans are not even wearing protection anymore. They are breathing the toxin directly. Their vital signs are completely normal." "That cannot be," shouted. "The toxin kills everything, every species, every time." Perhaps humans are different, General." There was a long pause. When spoke again, his voice was uncertain. This was something new for him. He had never faced an enemy that survived the gas. "Prepare the ground troops," finally said. "If the gas will not kill them, we will do it the old way, with weapons and soldiers." The transmission ended. Looked at his squad. They had all heard it. They were confused and afraid. For the first time in their long history of conquest, their greatest weapon had failed. "This is our chance," said. "They expected us to be dead. They are not prepared for a real fight." Cracked his knuckles. "Now we are talking. I was getting bored standing around breathing mint." Checked her rifle once again. I can see their positions clearly through my scope. The gas does not block my vision, but it blocks theirs. They cannot see us." "That is right," Bora added. "We can use the gas as cover. They think it is a weapon. For us, it is camouflage." Nodded. This was exactly what he was thinking. The had created a perfect hiding spot for the humans. They could move through the green mist unseen, strike the enemy, and disappear again. "New plan," announced. "We do not just defend, we attack. We use their own weapon against them." Stepped forward. "I should stay here with the wounded and civilians, but I want to give everyone something first." She held up small medical patches. "Adrenaline boosters. They will keep you alert and fast for the next few hours." Each soldier took a patch and applied it. Felt a surge of energy run through his body. He was ready. They were all ready. "You stay here and keep monitoring their communications," ordered. "Tell us everything they are planning." "Yes, Commander." Turn to the others. "Bora, you are with me. We move through the gas, we find their weak points, and we hit them hard." "What about the other squads?" Bora asked. "Radio them. Tell them what we discovered. Tell them the gas is harmless. Tell them to remove their helmets and fight." Bora immediately began sending the message. Within minutes, voices started coming back over the radio. Other soldiers, amazed and relieved, were testing the gas and finding out the truth. "Squad Delta reporting. The gas is safe. We are removing helmets." "Squad Echo here. This is unbelievable. The gas smells like candy." "Squad Bravo ready to fight. Let us show these aliens what humans can do." Felt pride swelling in his chest. This was humanity at its best. Faced with the impossible, they found a way. Threatened with death, they discovered hope. General had expected an easy victory. He had expected dead bodies and terrified survivors. Instead, he was about to face an enemy that could not be poisoned, could not be stopped, and was very, very angry. Led his squad to the main door. The green gas was still pouring in, thick as fog. He could hear troops moving outside, preparing for their ground assault. "Stay close," he told his team. "Move quietly. Remember, they cannot see us in this mist, but we can see them just fine." Grinned and pulled out his knife as well as his gun. Time to teach these aliens about humans. Said nothing, but her eyes were cold and focused. She was already looking for targets. Bora nodded at, "Ready when you are, Commander." Pushed open the door. Green mist swirled around them as they stepped outside. Ahead, through the chemical fog, they could see the shapes of soldiers. The aliens were standing confidently, waiting for the gas to finish its work. They had no idea what was coming. Raised his hand, giving the signal. His squad spread out, moving like ghosts through the green cloud. They could not see them. The aliens were blind in their own weapon. The first soldier never knew what hit him. One moment he was standing guard. The next moment was behind him, and then the alien fell. The battle for Outpost Gamma had truly begun. Chaos erupted in the command ship. General stood in the center of the bridge, surrounded by screens and officers, and he could not understand what was happening. For the first time in his 50 years of military service, his troops were dying and he did not know why. "Report," he screamed at his communications officer. "What is happening down there?" The officer's gray face was pale with fear. "General, our forward units are being attacked. They are falling one by one, but we cannot see the enemy." "Cannot see them? How is that possible? We have thermal sensors, motion detectors, everything." "The gas, General. The gas is blocking our equipment. It was designed to kill enemies, not to let us see through it." Slammed his 4 fists against the console. This was impossible. The gas had always worked perfectly. Release it, wait for the enemy to die, then walk in and take whatever you wanted. It was simple. It was efficient. It had worked on 100 worlds. But not this world, not against these humans. On the ground below, and his squad moved through the green mist like predators hunting prey. The gas swirled around them, hiding their movements. They could see the clearly because their human eyes worked differently than alien sensors. The mist was thick, but human vision could still pick out shapes and movement. Those, on the other hand, were completely blind. 3 soldiers ahead, whispered into her radio. I have a clear shot. Take them, replied. 3 soft sounds. 3 fell. They never saw where the bullets came from. Was enjoying himself far too much. He moved from alien to alien, appearing out of the mist like a ghost. They would turn, see a human standing right in front of them, and then it would be too late. Was fast, brutal, and completely invisible until the last moment. This is almost too easy, said, wiping his knife on his uniform. They just stand there waiting to die. Do not get overconfident, Bora warned. They will adapt. She was right. Inside the command ship, General was already changing his strategy. If the gas was not working, he would remove it. Activate the air purifiers, he ordered. Clear the gas, all of it. His officers hesitated. But General, the gas is our greatest weapon, if we clear it. The gas is useless against these humans. It is only helping them hide. Clear it now. The order went out. Across the battlefield, large machines began to hum. Powerful fans activated, sucking the green mist out of the air. Within minutes, the thick fog started to thin. Noticed immediately. The gas is clearing, they are removing it. That is bad, said. We lose our cover. Then we need to move fast. Hit them hard before the air is clear. Led his squad in a sprint toward the nearest position. They ran through the fatting mist, firing as they went. Soldiers fell left and right, still confused and disorganized. But the mist was getting thinner every second. Soon, the aliens would be able to see them. Back in the outpost, was working furiously in her medical station. So far, only a few wounded soldiers had come in. The surprise attack was working better than anyone had hoped, but she knew that would change once the gas was gone. Ran up to her with a tablet. I have been analyzing the gas sample you gave me. You need to see this. Looked at the data on the screen. Her eyes went wide. This is incredible. I know, said excitedly. The gas is not just harmless to humans. Look at these numbers. It actually improves our lung function slightly. The menthol compound opens our airways. We can breathe better in this gas than in normal air. Laughed in disbelief. Their ultimate weapon makes us stronger. This cannot be real. It is real. I have checked the data 3 times. Grabbed the tablet and ran to the communication station. Commander, this is. I have important information. His voice came back between sounds of gunfire. Go ahead, but make it quick. The gas does not just not hurt us. It actually helps us. Our breathing is improved by about 15% when we inhale it. It is like a performance enhancer. There was a pause, then started laughing. You are telling me their poison makes us better soldiers. That is exactly what I am telling you. More laughter came over the radio, not just from other soldiers who had heard the message. The idea was so ridiculous, so perfectly ironic that they could not help themselves. General heard the human laughter through his intercepted communications. He did not understand the joke, but he understood that his enemy was not afraid. His enemy was amused. This made him furious. All troops advance, he screamed. Full assault, kill every human you see. The army began to move. Thousands of soldiers marched toward the outpost, their weapons glowing with purple energy. The gas was almost completely gone now. The battlefield was clear. Saw the approaching army and knew they could not fight them all in the open. Fall back to the outpost. We make our stand there. His squad retreated quickly, covering each other as they moved. Shots flew past them, burning holes in the ground and walls. One blast hit Bora in the shoulder, spinning her around. I am fine, she shouted before anyone could ask. Keep moving. They reached the outpost doors and rushed inside. Other squads were already there, taking up defensive positions. The wounded were being carried to medical station. Everyone was preparing for the real battle. Ran to the command center and looked at the tactical display. The army was huge, much bigger than their small force, but the outpost had strong walls and good defensive positions. They could hold for a while. Commander said, "I am still monitoring their communications. General is very angry. He is ordering a full assault with no retreat." "Good," said, "angry commanders make mistakes." Walked up, reloading his weapons. "We hurt them bad out there. I counted at least 50 kills from our squad alone." "And the other squads did similar damage," added. "They lost hundreds of soldiers before the gas cleared." "But they have thousands more," Bora said, holding her injured shoulder. "We cannot win a straight fight against those numbers." Knew she was right. They had won the first round through surprise. The second round would be much harder. They knew now that humans could breathe their gas. They would not make the same mistake twice. "We do not need to win," said quietly. "We just need to survive until the fleet arrives." 3 days, reminded them. "Can we hold for 3 days?" Nobody answered. 3 days against an army seemed impossible. But then again, surviving their poison gas had also seemed impossible. The first troops reached the outpost walls. They began firing at the windows and doors, trying to break through. Human soldiers fired back, taking down aliens with every shot, but more kept coming, climbing over the bodies of their fallen comrades. General watched the assault from his command ship. He was still confused about the gas, but he was confident about this. His army was huge. The humans were few. This was simple mathematics. But as he watched his soldiers fall one after another, he began to wonder if mathematics worked differently when fighting humans. One of his officers approached nervously. "General, I have been studying the human biology data from our archives. I think I understand why the gas did not work." "Explain." "Humans evolved on a planet with many natural toxins. Their bodies developed resistance to a wide range of chemical compounds. Our gas is based on menthol, which is common in Earth plants. Their species has been exposed to it for millions of years." Stared at the officer. "You are telling me that our ultimate weapon is based on something humans eat for pleasure?" "Essentially, yes, General." Was silent for a long moment. Then he turned back to the battle screens. The humans were still fighting, still laughing, still refusing to die. "What kind of species is this?" he muttered to himself. He did not know it yet, but he was about to find out. The battle had raged for 6 hours. The sun had set, and the night sky was lit by weapon fire and burning debris. The outpost walls were scorched and cracked, but they still stood. And behind those walls, humans still fought. Wiped blood from his face. It was not his blood. A soldier had gotten too close and had dealt with him personally. His arms ached, his legs were tired, but his mind was sharp. He was not done fighting yet. "Status report," he called out. Bora's voice came over the radio. Her shoulder was bandaged, but she had refused to leave her position. "East wall is holding. We have lost 4 soldiers, but the enemy has lost at least 100 trying to breach." "North wall secure," reported. "I am running low on ammunition, but I am making every shot count." "South wall is the weak point," said. "They are concentrating their forces there. I need more soldiers." Looked at the tactical map. Was right. They were smart enough to identify the weakest section of their defense. If that wall fell, the aliens would pour into the outpost. "I am coming to you," said. "Hold until I arrive." He grabbed a fresh weapon and ran through the corridors. The outpost was damaged but functional. Engineers had been working all night to repair the worst sections. Its medical station was full of wounded, but she was keeping them alive with skill and determination. Reached the south wall and saw the situation immediately. And a dozen soldiers were fighting desperately against waves of attackers. Purple energy blasts filled the air. 2 soldiers fell as watched. "Grenades!" shouted, pulling one from his belt. The soldiers threw their explosives over the wall. The explosion sent bodies flying. It bought them a few seconds of breathing room. Grinned at, his face covered in dirt and alien blood. "Nice of you to join us, Commander. I could not let you have all the fun." They fought side by side, firing at every gray figure that tried to climb the wall. But there were so many. For every alien they killed, 2 more appeared. The situation was getting desperate. Then's voice came over the radio, excited and breathless. "Commander, I have intercepted something important." "Not a good time." "Trust me, you want to hear this. General is moving his command position. He is coming down from his ship to the surface. He wants to personally lead the final assault." Stopped firing for a moment. This was unexpected. Generals usually stayed safely in their ships far from danger. For to come down meant he was getting desperate or overconfident. "Where is he landing?" asked. "About 200 meters west of our position. He will have a heavy guard, but he will be on the ground." His mind raced. If they could capture or kill him, the entire assault might fall apart. Alien armies were highly organized, but they depended on their commanders. Remove the head and the body would be confused. "Bora, meet me at the west exit. We are going hunting." His eyes lit up. "We are going after the general." "We are." "This is crazy," Bora said over the radio. "There will be hundreds of guards around him." "Probably," agreed, "but we have something they do not expect." "What is that?" Smiled grimly, "Us." Within minutes, the 4 soldiers gathered at the west exit. They were battered and tired, but their eyes burned with determination. This was their chance to end the battle, to save the colony, to prove that humans were not easy prey. "The gas," said suddenly, "is there any left?" His voice answered from the command center. "There are several canisters in storage. They launched them at us earlier, but they did not break open." "Bring them to the west exit," ordered. A few minutes later, a soldier arrived carrying 4 green canisters, picked one up and felt its weight. These containers held the most feared weapon in the galaxy, and for humans they were completely useless as weapons. But maybe they could be useful as something else. "Here is the plan," said. "We release these canisters near his position. The gas will blind his guards and their sensors. For them, it will be a thick fog they cannot see through. And for us, it will be fresh mountain air, finished, understanding immediately." "Exactly. We move through the gas, find and end this." The soldiers nodded. It was a crazy plan. It was a dangerous plan. It was exactly the kind of plan that humans were famous for. They slipped out of the outpost through a hidden door. The night was dark, and the sounds of battle covered their movement. They crept through the shadows, avoiding patrols, moving closer and closer to the enemy command position. Could see now. The general stood on a raised platform, surrounded by at least 100 elite guards. He was directing the assault, pointing at maps and shouting orders. His golden armor gleamed in the light of burning fires. "Ready," whispered. His squad nodded, pulled the release valve on his canister, and threw it toward the enemy position. And Bora did the same. 4 canisters flew through the air and landed among the guards. Green gas erupted everywhere. They immediately panicked. They remembered what this gas was supposed to do. They expected the humans to die. Instead, the humans came charging through the mist like demons. Hit the first guards before they even knew what was happening. He was a storm of violence, moving from enemy to enemy with terrible speed. Bora was right behind him, protecting his flank and taking down any that tried to attack from the side. Stayed back, using her rifle to pick off guards from a distance. Even in the thick gas, her aim was perfect. Every shot found its target. Ran straight for General. The commander saw him coming. For the first time, felt something he had not felt in decades. Fear. A human was running at him through the poison gas, breathing it like air, with murder in his eyes. Pulled out his own weapon, a ceremonial blade that had killed 100 enemy commanders. He was a warrior too, despite his high rank. He would not run from a single human. They clashed in the middle of the green cloud, was tall and had 4 arms, giving him a huge advantage, but was fast, and he was fighting for his people. He ducked under his first strike and slashed at the general's leg. Roared in pain and swung his blade wildly. Jumped back, then forward again, attacking from a different angle. They fought like this for a minute, neither able to land a killing blow. Around them the battle continued, had taken down at least 20 guards. Bora was wounded again but still fighting. His rifle sang again and again. But more were coming. They had heard the commotion and were rushing to protect their general. Shouted, "We need to finish this now." Knew he was right. He had one chance. He feinted left, then threw himself right, rolling under his defenses. Before the general could react, his blade found the gap in his golden armor. General looked down at the wound in his chest. Then he looked at the human who had given it to him. His small eyes were wide with disbelief. "How?" he gasped. "How is this possible? You are just humans." Stood up slowly, breathing hard. "That is exactly why." Fell to his knees, then collapsed forward. The great general of the empire, conqueror of 100 worlds, was dead. For a moment everything was silent. The guards stared at their fallen leader. They could not believe what they were seeing. No enemy had ever killed a general. It was unthinkable. Then raised his voice, shouting in the alien language he had learned. "Your general is dead. Your gas does not work on us. Run now or join him." The guards hesitated. They looked at each other, at the dead general, at the humans standing in the gas like ghosts. And then, one by one, they began to retreat. The retreat spread. Soldiers across the battlefield saw their commanders fleeing and followed. The organized army fell apart in minutes. Aliens ran back toward their ships, desperate to escape. Watched them go. His body was exhausted, his wounds were bleeding, but he was smiling. They had done it. 4 humans had done what entire species could not. They had broken the "Commander," his voice came over the radio, filled with joy. "They are leaving. The whole army is retreating to their ships." Looked up at the sky as ships began to rise. They were running. The invincible were running from humans. "Let them go," said. "Let them tell the galaxy what happened here." Put a hand on shoulder. "Not bad for a day's work." "Not bad at all." They walked back to the outpost as the sun began to rise. The green gas was finally fading, replaced by the pink light of morning. Behind them, the fleet disappeared into the stars. The battle for Outpost Gamma was over, and humanity had won. 3 days later, the Earth fleet finally arrived. Admiral stood on the bridge of her flagship, looking down at the colony below. She had prepared herself for the worst. They had attacked, and everyone knew what that meant. She expected to find ruins. She expected to find bodies. She expected to find nothing left. Instead, she found humans waving at her ships from the outpost walls. "Admiral," her communications officer said, clearly confused. "We are receiving a transmission from Outpost Gamma. They say they are fine. They say they have left." Blinked. "They are fine. They attacked them and they are fine." "That is what they are saying, Admiral." Ordered her shuttle to land immediately. She had to see this for herself. When she stepped out of the shuttle, Commander was waiting for her. He looked tired. He had bandages on his arms and face, but he was standing and he was smiling. "Commander," said slowly, "I was told they attacked this colony." "They did, Admiral. They who have never lost a war, who have conquered hundreds of worlds, who have a weapon that kills everything." "Yes, Admiral." "And you won." Smile grew wider. "Yes, Admiral, we did." Was silent for a long moment. Then she laughed, a sound of pure disbelief and joy. "I need to hear this story." They sat in the damaged command center and told her everything. The invasion, the gas, taking off his helmet and asking about Mint, the realization that humans were immune, the counterattack, the death of General, the retreat. By the end, was staring at like he was something from a legend. "You breathed their poison gas," she said, "and it smelled like mint." "Very refreshing mint," added from across the room. "Best breath freshener in the galaxy." Shook her head in wonder. "Do you understand what this means? They have been unstoppable for 1,000 years because of that gas. Every species they meet, they gas first. Nobody fights back because everyone is dead before the battle begins." "Not anymore," Bora said. She was sitting in a chair, her shoulder heavily bandaged. "Now they know there is a species their gas cannot kill." "More than that," added, "our tests confirmed it. The gas actually makes humans slightly stronger, better breathing, increased oxygen flow. Their weapon is our medicine." Covered her face with her hands. "The Galactic Council needs to know about this. Every species in the galaxy needs to know." "They already do," said from his station. "I have been monitoring communications. News of the battle is spreading everywhere. The retreat is the biggest story in 100 years." Looked up from cleaning her rifle. "Good, let everyone know, let them know most of all." The news did spread. It spread like fire across the stars. On 100 worlds, species that had lived in fear of the herd, the incredible story. Humans had survived the gas. Humans had fought back. Humans had killed a general and driven away an entire invasion fleet. In the great halls of the Galactic Council, ambassadors gathered to discuss this development. Many of them had never paid much attention to humans before. Humans were young, a new species on the galactic stage. They were not considered important. That changed overnight. "Humans are immune to the nerve toxin," announced the ambassador, a being with 4 hearts and blue skin. "This changes everything. For the first time, there is a species that can challenge them directly." "More than challenge," the ambassador added. "They defeated them. A small colony with minimal military forces drove away a full army." "We must form an alliance with the humans," declared the representative. "They could be the key to finally stopping expansion." The council voted unanimously. For the first time in galactic history, humans were invited to join the highest levels of interstellar government. But the most important reaction came from themselves. In the throne room of the Empire, the Overlord sat on his ancient seat of power and listened to the report. The messenger trembled as he spoke, knowing that bearers of bad news often did not survive. "General is dead, Overlord, killed by a human. The invasion has failed. Our fleet has retreated." The Overlord was silent. He had ruled for 2 centuries. He had overseen the conquest of countless worlds. He had never heard of a defeat like this. "The gas," he finally said. "What happened to the gas?" "It did not work, Overlord. The humans breathed it freely. They walked through it like it was nothing. Some reports say they were laughing." "Laughing?" "Yes, Overlord. They found it amusing." The Overlord's 4 hands gripped the arms of his throne. Laughing. The enemy that had destroyed his army found the experience amusing. "Leave me," the Overlord commanded. The messenger fled gratefully. The Overlord sat alone in his dark throne room, thinking. For 1,000 years they had been invincible. Now, a new species had appeared that could not be stopped by their greatest weapon. He made a decision that would echo through history. The next day, a message was broadcast across the galaxy. The Empire was withdrawing from human space. All ships were ordered to stay at least 100 light-years away from any human colony. The humans were officially classified as a protected threat. No one would attack humans again, not because of treaties or diplomacy, because of fear. Back on Outpost Gamma, life slowly returned to normal. The colony was rebuilt. The dead were honored. The heroes were celebrated. Was promoted to general. though he said he preferred being on the front lines, was offered a position training new soldiers, teaching them how to fight like humans, became the leader of a special operations unit. Bora was promoted to commander and given her own outpost, received commendations for his communications work, and was offered a position at Fleet Intelligence. Opened a research center studying human biology and its unique resistances. They had all become legends, but they remained humble. On the one-year anniversary of the battle, a ceremony was held at Outpost Gamma. Representatives from a dozen species came to pay respects. A monument was unveiled, showing a human soldier standing in green mist, helmet off, facing the enemy without fear. Was asked to give a speech. He stood before the crowd and looked at the faces of humans and aliens alike. 1 year ago, an enemy came to destroy us. They brought their most powerful weapon, a poison that had killed millions. They expected us to die like all the others. He paused. They expected wrong. The crowd cheered. We are human. We are small. We are young. We do not have 4 arms or armored skin or the ability to survive in space, but we have something else. We have the ability to survive things that should kill us. We have the stubbornness to keep fighting when victory seems impossible. We have the courage to take off our helmets and breathe poison because we trust our own bodies. He looked in the crowd. The big sergeant was grinning like always. And sometimes, said with a smile, we have the good luck to be immune to alien weapons that smell like candy. The crowd laughed. Even some of the aliens understood the joke now. Let this day remind everyone, concluded. If you come for humans, come prepared for a real fight, because we do not die easy, we do not surrender, and we definitely do not mind a little mint in our air. The ceremony ended with a new tradition. Every year on this day, humans across the galaxy would eat mint candy. It was a reminder of the battle, of the victory, of the day humanity proved itself to the stars. And in the dark corners of the galaxy, in the hidden places where gathered, a warning was passed from generation to generation. Never gas the humans. They breathe death like air. And they think it is funny. The legend of Outpost Gamma spread far and wide. It was told in schools and military academies, in bars and council halls. It became the story that defined humanity to the rest of the universe. They were small, they were young, they were absolutely terrifying. And somewhere in the stars, Sergeant was still laughing about the time an alien made him feel minty fresh. The end.